I don't know about you, but I'll take a little chaos over the lies and deception that the Democrats are peddling every single day. All right, look, sure, the GOP had that chaotic meltdown last week, including a little potential skirmish in the House chamber. Not the best look to the country, I'll admit it. And McCarthy got his long-coveted gavel, and in his first official act, my guess is he would have loved to use it to conk the heads of the 20 or so Republicans who made his life a living hell last week. But that all pales in comparison to what the Democrats do. The lies and deception they display every single day is nauseating at best, diabolical at worst. And it started right away in this Congress when Hakeem Jeffries, the Democrat minority leader in the House, got a whiff of the Speaker's podium over the weekend. He doesn't occupy it, but it made the lying, deceptive speech over the weekend pretty bad. Have a look.
But I also want to make clear that we will never compromise our principles. House Democrats will always put American values over autocracy, benevolence over bigotry, the Constitution over the cult, democracy over demagogues, economic opportunity over extremism, freedom over fascism, governing over gaslighting, hopefulness over hatred, inclusion over isolation, justice over judicial overreach, knowledge over kangaroo courts, liberty over limitation, maturity over Mar-a-Lago, normalcy over negativity, opportunity over obstruction, people over politics, quality of life issues over QAnon, reason over racism, substance over slander, triumph over tyranny, understanding over ugliness, voting rights over voter suppression, working families over the well-connected, xenial over xenophobia, yes we can over you can't do it, and zealous representation over zero-sum confrontation. We will always do the right thing by the American people.
Okay, I just have one word for all that crap. Joe, please.
I was going to put him, excuse me.
Thanks, Joe. Couldn't have said it better myself. Hakeem Jeffries is lying through his teeth A to Z. He said the GOP is guilty of extremism. Hey, Hakeem, have you ever heard of Antifa, BLM? Conservatives are guilty of judicial overreach. Rich, coming from the party that looks to activist judges to implement their policies. And kangaroo courts, where is the laughing emoji? Hey, Hakeem, look up J6 committee, Google it. Then Hakeem Jeffries talks about tyranny when it's Joe from Delaware in the role of King George. Oh, and voter suppression? This coming after all the Democrats' election shenanigans setups? Come on, talk about projecting. And then he talks about all the ugliness and slander coming from Republicans. I guess he conveniently missed all this stuff coming from the left.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized right up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look, as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
See, folks, this is what the Democrats do. They want you to believe a narrative that is absolutely not true, and if you're not paying attention, you will believe it and vote for it. But you see, here's the thing. Democrats are great at solidarity. And with solidarity comes all the lies and deception, because without it, your whole argument falls apart. The evidence is everywhere. Look at January 6th. I mean, the January 6th committee deceived America by leaving out all of President Trump's tweets and speech that day calling for peaceful protest. Plus, no investigation on what Pelosi knew and when she knew it, the FBI informants, all that stuff. Nothing. It's deception and lies. How about their lies about what a woman is? Men dressing up as women do not count. And yet their lies and deception try to convince you that they are the party defending women. That's a load of crock. Or how about Joe Biden is Mr. Unity? Yeah, and I'm Brad Pitt. Or that Biden is this amazing family man. Yeah, all right, ask all the women and children he has sniffed. And then have a conversation, by the way, with Tara Reid while you're at it. And now in the news today, 2 more pieces of evidence. Joe the ice cream man visited the border this week for the first time in ever. Seriously, ever. He spent a whopping 4 hours, and all we got were some photo ops of him strolling along the border as he spoke to border enforcement personnel. The only thing missing was the ice cream. I'd like to inform you that he saw the horrible situation with illegal immigrants lined up sleeping on the streets of El Paso, but alas, El Paso cleaned up those migrant camps ahead of Biden's visit because we wouldn't want to dabble in reality at all, right? You see, folks, this is the real situation right there on the streets of El Paso. Tons of illegal immigrants sleeping on the streets. But take a look. The before and after pictures, they cleaned it up for Biden. So one day, they're there. The next day, poof, illegal immigration magic. They're gone. Lies and deception. And one last example. The Hill now reporting that Biden is planning to make his intentions to run for a second term public in the coming weeks, likely in February. The New York Post summed it up pretty nicely with the headline, "Joe, no," and people running and screaming for their lives. Now that is pretty accurate. And then Axios provides cover for the Dems' line and deception, writing this, quote, President Biden is quietly pivoting to the middle as he prepares for a 2024 run. His early 23 moves, Sunday's visit to the U.S.-Mexico border and his appearance with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell to promote the infrastructure law, gave a crystal clear contrast with the GOP's chaotic speaker fight. Look for some Clinton-esque triangulation proposing bipartisan deals for passage in the Senate while fully expecting to see them rejected in the Republican-held House. The emerging Biden bet is that he can reprise his winning 2020 campaign theme, winning re-election as a center-left incumbent who looks better than the radical alternatives. Ah yes, Joe Biden, the moderate, who governed as a tyrannical leftist the last 2 years, added to the overflowing dossier of disinformation. And joining me now is the CEO of Daravi Strategies, LLC, and former top White House aide, Roma Daravi. Roma, great to have you on the show.
Oh.
Well, Roma, we're going to get to the GOP in a moment. First, the Democrats. I mean, you have to hand it to them. They're very good at selling lies and deception. I'm curious to get your take.
You're exactly right. And that's something that I mentioned during this last election cycle when we were dealing with the midterms. The Democrats are very good at doing one thing, and that is lying from the same sheet of talking points. They hit very hard on the issue of abortion over and over and over again, lying to the American people about what the right is doing in that specific situation. And honestly, they won a lot of votes because of that. So you have to be able to see through it. And I'm confident that the American people have been able to do that over these last 2 years. I mean, there's just no ignoring it anymore. Really, the lies have become so obvious. With your monologue, for instance, the side-by-side images of El Paso just 24 hours before and during Joe Biden's visit. It really is something that you would have to be lying to yourself, lying to your own eyes to ignore at this point. So it's very unfortunate using city funds, El Paso city employees to clean up the streets for Joe Biden's first ever visit to the border wall in his 80 years of life, his 50 years of government service, if you can call it that. And I could go on and on and on, but the lies are just exorbitant at this point, and it's really unfortunate, but hopefully the American people are seeing right through that.